You want the hat? I'm sure you can trade your plant for the hat.
Maybe you drop those tickets in.
All right. So now we're going to take all that information, kind of all the steps we've been doing today, and we've finally made it to the point where, okay, we've got all of our plants mapped in this particular area hypothetically, and we want to create a map for it. So we're just going to explore what's called the layout view in ArcMap and set up a page layout and put some kind of basic elements on there to create that map, and then we'll export it as a PDF, and you can send it to your visitors and tell them how awesome your garden is. Okay, so let's go back. If you don't have ArcMap open it up and open up the GIS for Public Gardens document we were working with. I'm going to assume that you guys have it open. And what we're going to do is we want to just create a map of this South Arakace section, because that's where we've created our data. So what I want to do first, I think, is let's get zoomed into that particular area. So there's a number of different ways to do it, of course, but I'm going to right-click on section and make that the only selectable layer. Then I'm going to grab the Select Features tool here from this toolbar with the zoom tools on it. Click on that section, and from the selection menu at the top, I'm going to do Zoom to Selected Features. And that zooms in right to that area that we want to work in. Now, one thing I've noticed is that when we brought in this Plant Center feature from the field, it didn't label it, and that's probably because we didn't have all the information filled in, so it kind of got a little bit messed up by not having that on there. So we can label that pretty quickly by selecting that plant. So to select it, we're going to, again, right-click on Plant Center, hit Selection, make it the only selectable layer, and with our selection tool that we should still have on, select that, or clear our selection first by either clicking outside of our section boundary or hitting the Clear Selected Features button. And then with the selection tool, click on our Plant Center to select it. Now, for the label to show up correctly, we need to make sure that the Plant Center ID and the scientific name are filled in. So if you didn't fill those in, you might want to do that, but it's not necessary. This is just more for example. But we have this point selected, so I want to annotate that feature. So I'm going to right-click on Plant Center, go down to Selection, and then almost all the way down, there's an Annotate Selected Features option. We'll click on that, and it says, which annotation class do you want to add this to? So it either says mass planting or Plant Center, and because this is for a mass planting, we want to put it in that class. So we'll uncheck Plant Center. So now it's just going to create a mass planting label. And the difference between these two is that we've set up the labels to look a little bit differently depending on if it's a mass planting or a Plant Center, so you can tell those things apart on your map really easily. So click OK on that. And if all went well, it should have created a label. I think that it is having some sort of issue because I don't see that label on here. But, yep, it doesn't look like it works. So for one reason or another, things are not happening correctly today. But there's one of those errors that I was talking about. So things happen. So we'll skip that for now and just move forward with making our collection map. Okay, so I'm going to hit the Clear Selected Features button so we have nothing selected. But we want to probably make this map look a little bit better. We might want to make our sidewalk or our pathway here like an asphalt color. So I'm going to expand Pavement Segment Feature Class, click on the symbol for pathway, and then choose a fill color that is more asphalt looking. So I'm going to go with gray color. You guys can choose whatever you'd like. I'll symbolize that, and now it looks a little bit better. And then I might also want to make my mass plantings so that they all look a certain way. One thing I might want to do is I might want to smooth out this polygon for the mass planting. We forgot to do that. So you can right-click on... Oh, you know what? I just remembered why. I think we're not editing. That's probably why our label didn't work. So if you grab the selection tool, let's try to annotate this label one more time just to make sure we get that on there. Select our plant center. It should still be the only selectable layer. And now start editing from the editor toolbar. And now, unfortunately, this palette is blocking our view here. So we can hit the pin icon in the upper right of that, and that makes it so it'll hide when we're not using it. So we'll do that to get that out of the way. And then to annotate this guy, we've got him selected. Let's try again to right-click on Plant Center, go to Selection, and do Annotate Selected Features. Still no guarantees this will work, but we'll give it a shot. Hit OK. Nope, still didn't work. Well, it's worth a shot. So let's smooth out that mass planting polygon. So to do that, we have to select it. So let's try a different method of selecting it this time. Let's right-click on mass planting and hit Open Attribute Table. And we want to select this polygon right here. So we'll do that. And we can close the table. Now we've got it selected. And because the plant center is still selected, it's not letting us smooth it out because it doesn't know which thing to smooth. So we have to just select that mass planting. So clear selected features. And again, we can open that attribute table, select that guy, get him in there. Now our smooth tool is able to be selected. So at the very right of the advanced editing toolbar, we'll hit smooth, put in our maximum allowable offset of 1/10 of a foot, which means that it's only going to move those vertices that far. And click OK, and now our polygon smooths out. Alright, now we can hit clear selected features again. And now maybe we want to change the way that these polygons draw on the map so that maybe they're not different colors. Our mass plantings, we may just want them to be all one color. So to do that, we'll double click on mass planting in the table of contents and go to the Symbology tab. And then from here, instead of having it on the left, you can see it's got a categorized, or it's displaying these symbols by category. We just want to do one symbol for the whole feature class. So I'll click on Feature, and then it gives us a symbol to select this with. And you may want to change this to green or whatever color works for you. I'm going to go with green, and then I'm going to hit OK. And now our mass plantings both show up as the same color on the map. And I also might want to change the way our plant center symbols look on the map. So let's see. I'm pretty sure that we have this file in here. What did I do with that? Please hold. I'm just going to check something out really quick to make sure I gave us the right file for this. Yeah, it's the style, not the font. Okay, good. I think this is on here. Yeah, okay. All right, what we're going to do is to symbolize the plants on the map. They don't really give you very good symbols in ArcMap for doing plant stuff. So I've found this little font file that's just like the fonts that you use, like Times New Roman. that we can download and install, and then ArcMap will give us lots of different options for being able to symbolize our plants. So I think this is a pretty neat step, and I can, if you guys are interested in using this font, we can make it so that you guys can get a hold of it. So to do that, I think what we should do is first we'll save and close ArcMap. So save from the File menu, and then close out ArcMap. If you're still editing, it'll ask you if you want to save your edits. Hit save yes, or hit yes. And then open up Internet Explorer and go to apgg.org. And then go to Products. And then there's I have a little hidden download page on here that has this stuff on it. If you, in the address bar at the top, if you type a slash, the same as the other slashes that are there, and then type in downloads, it'll bring us to this old download page that has the symbol file that we need on here. And if you scroll down, you'll see plantsymbols.zip. You guys finding that? Click on that guy, hit download, and we're going to cut off a step here by, instead of saving this, we're just going to open it. So hit open. And it should open up to the contents of the zip file here. And let's just do extract all files. And in the box that it asks you where to extract it to, hit browse. Under computer, select our T drive and hit OK. Hit extract. And then it opens up to the T drive, and you should see 3 files at the bottom, the same 3 files that we saw in the previous view there. It's got one that ends in style, and then this really complicated sounding one, ddvlts1a. And then there's a little text file that tells you how to install these guys. So what this file is here, the complicated name one, is it's a font, just like our other fonts, and to install it we have to drag it into our fonts folder here on this computer. So what we're going to do is go to Start, go to Control Panel, and from Control Panel, if you don't see this view here, you go under View By, switch to Large Icons, and it should show you everything. And under Fonts, just open that up, and it opens up the font folder on the computer and shows you all the things that we have installed. So everybody got to that? No? So it's under Control Panel. Okay, so you got those guys extracted. Oh, hit extract all file. That's fine. Actually, let's hit browse and just make it T. So just select T drive. Under computer. Select that. Extracts. Yeah, just do a copy and replace them. Okay, so it's got those on there, so now we can go to Start. Go to Control Panel. And then go to Fonts. All right, did we all get that far? Okay, so the grand finale of this step here is to hopefully you have the folder open that it opened when it extracted. If not, you can go to Windows Explorer, and under Computer, go to T. And then what you're going to do is click on the name of the TrueType font file, which is DDVLTS1A for one reason or another. Click on that guy and drag it to the control panel icon until that folder opens, and then just drag it anywhere in there and it should say installing fonts. Did that work for everybody? Mia?
You can also just double click the font file.
Oh, does it do it that way? Oh, that's much easier. All right, everybody good? Okay, so you can close out that window. You can close out any other windows you got open except for ArcMap. Close your web browser. And now, I think we did close ArcMap, so open ArcMap back up. And when it opens up in the Getting Started window, hopefully our document should be saved there, GIS for Public Gardens. Hit Open. And it should open up to where we left off. Is that working for everybody? Okay, so the whole point of that step was to make it so that we can turn these little dots on the map into something a little bit more meaningful. So if we double click on our Plant Centers feature class or layer in the table of contents, and then go to the Symbology tab, it shows us how our different symbols are shown on the map. So what we want to do is we want to take our plant centers, double click on that guy, on the little symbol, the little dot over on the left hand side. And then what we're going to do is go to Edit Symbol. And under the type at the top, change that to Character Marker Symbol. And now it brings up a list of fonts that you can use for different symbols on here. And we're going to change the fonts from ESRI Default Marker to that strange named one that we just dragged in there. So scroll up to D, and you should see DDVLTS1A now that we've installed that guy. And this has all kinds of cool plant symbols in it for us. So we can select any one of these that we like for our map. I'm going to select this tree one here. That's my favorite. And we can click OK on that. And I might want to change the color to green. After I pressed OK, you can change the color on this screen. I'm going to make it dark green. It looks pretty small, so I might increase the size. You can hit the up arrow on that to get it to be up to a size that you like, maybe 24, maybe 32, whatever you're into. Hit OK. And now when I hit OK on this, now it draws that plant in looking a little bit more like a plant. And now one common way to draw your plant symbols on the map is to change them, to categorize them, have different symbols based on their growth habit. So to do that, we're going to change this up a little bit. We'll double click on Plant Center. And it has categories, unique values already selected on the left. That's great. That's what we're going to do. So under Value field, we're going to change that from Plant Center Type to Plant Habit. And then if we click on Add All Values, it'll add all the different plant habit values from the domain we have associated with that field in here. So it gives us all of the different choices. Now I'm pretty sure that we're only using, or I've only used forb, herbaceous, and shrub as my 2 different types today. So I'm only going to bother to create symbols for those just in the sake of saving time. If you've used different ones for the plants that you've created today, then you should symbolize those plants differently. So pick whatever you want. So I know that I did forb herbaceous, so I'm going to click on that guy. I'm going to click Edit Symbol. I'm going to change the type to character marker symbol. I'll change that font to that crazy named one, DDVLTS1A. And then for forb herbaceous, I'm going to pick something that looks kind of like a herbaceous plant. Maybe this one. I'll go with that guy. I'm going to change it to be green. I'm going to make it bigger. And I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go through and I think I want to change, I think my other one's a shrub. So I'm going to click on the dot next to shrub. Double click on it, that is. Click on Edit Symbol. Change the type to a character marker symbol. And again, you have to go select the font. It's a little bit of a tedious process. And then I'm going to select something that looks like a shrub for this guy. I might go with this one, even though it looks more like a tree, but that'll work for today. And then click OK. Those steps working for everybody? Then when I click OK on this, we've got, oh, now our plants are looking more like plants versus dots on the map. Guys need a little bit more time on that? We have, but the problem with botanic gardens is there's too many species, so it's a long list. Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to have it. Yeah, we could. Yeah, genus or even family would probably make more sense, as there's still lots of families. So. Okay, so now we've got our map looking pretty decent. I mean, we could spend more time to customizing this and making it look better, but for the sake of time, we're just going to kind of move forward and start turning this into something we can print out. So now we want to switch to Layout View, and you can do that from the View menu and Layout View. And now it gives us a page that we can kind of organize things and lay them out on. So the first thing you want to do when you get into Layout View is to select your page size and orientation. So to do that, go to the File menu and go to Page and Print Setup. And we're going to end up printing this to PDF, but so you don't have to actually select the printer right now, but you can if you'd like. I'm going to select Adobe PDF as mine. Actually, I think we're going to do export, so don't bother with that. Change the orientation to landscape. I think that it'll probably fit our data on a page if it's in landscape a little bit better. And the size should be letter. Click on OK. And then it kind of reorients our page for us. Now the cool thing about Layout View is now we can click on our map here, and it gives us little toggle points on this thing where we can move it around and resize it. One thing I like to do, though, is I like to kind of make sure that things are a little bit standard. So to do that, it's nice to have a grid on the page that you can snap things to. So if you right-click on the white space here on the map, at the bottom you get a couple different things. You can adjust your rulers, you can set up guides, you can set up grids. I'm going to do show the grid. So under grid, just click on grid, and now it shows a grid for us. Right-click again, go to grid, and do snap to grid. And this will make sure that everything is kind of laid out in a set format. So now I can move around this layout view with using the scroll bars, and I can drag my data frame so that it fits on the page. If you have a gray dotted line near the edge of your paper, that would be the printer margin. So that's always a good idea to keep in mind. You don't want your map going too far out. And I'm going to set mine up so that I have a little bit of room at the top so I can put a title on there, a little bit of room at the bottom so I can put a scale bar and things like that. But you can lay out your page however you're comfortable. One thing I might want to do is put a logo on this. So to do that, you can go to the Insert menu, do Insert Picture. And if you go to Computer, and then our T drive, our workshop data, see the UC Davis Arboretum logo, you can click on that guy, click Open. It places this giant logo in here, and if you really want to show off who you are, you can leave it large. But if you click on this guy, you may have to scroll over to get to a toggle point. You can grab one, and if you hold down the Shift key while you do this, it will keep the proportions the same while you resize it. So that's a good idea. Otherwise, it may end up looking a little bit weird. So I'm going to make that a lot smaller and position it in the top. And then I might want to put a title on this map, so you could do Insert Title. It says, what title would you like to give your map? I'm going to call this the South Eric KCE. That's all right. Section. And you can, after this is entered, you can double click on it, and you can hit change symbol, and you can change the font to be a different font. You can change the size, change it. I like to be bold, so I'm going to make it bold. Click OK. And then you can position that wherever you'd like to on here. I might make it a little bigger. It doesn't look very title-like. Go with 36. That might be pretty big. We'll see. Yeah, 36 is a little too big. Maybe 24. 28, how about that? That looks good. And then you might want some more information on here. I might like to know what the scale is on this guy. So remember before we were talking about making your maps at a standard scale so that it's easy to do measurements and things like that off of. So the scale box at the top, you can change the scale to be something that's more standard. And the best way to do this is, since we're using feet and inches as our units, the best thing is to make this number divisible by 12. And that makes it so that your units or your map is at a kind of an even scale that is 1 inch equals so many feet. So you can change this to whatever is good for you, but you get to keep in mind that you have to keep your map on the screen. So it's got to be fairly close to what it's at right now. I'm going to say we can zoom in a little bit, so I might try 480 as a number, and that works pretty well. And that means that right now we have 1 inch equals 480 inches, or what is that, 40 feet? Yeah. So that makes it fairly uniform. One thing you might want to do is you could put a grid over this so that there's kind of a regular gridded interval, so that makes it even easier to do any kind of planting or drawing in other plants while you're out in the field. To do that, you can go to the layers here on the table of contents, right click, go to properties, go to grids tab, click on new grid, and there's lots of different options on this. I won't get too far into it, but what we want to do is we want to put a measured grid on here so that it divides the map into a grid of map units, which is feet for us. So click on that. You can name it whatever you'd like. Click on next. And you can say, what do you want on here? Do you want a grid? Do you want just little tick marks on the side? Do you want labels only? We want a grid and labels. It lets you choose the style of the line that would go on that grid. It asks you what coordinate system you want to do. Since our coordinate system is in feet, this is pretty easy, so we'll go with that. And then the intervals that you want on here. And since we've made our scale is 1 inch equals 40 feet, I recommend going with 40 or 20 maybe is a good number. I'm going to go with 20 and make my grid 20 by 20. Click on next. You can change the line styles for the major and minor lines on there. You can change the text labeling. You can do a couple other different options on here, and then you can choose how it's going to be stored. We leave all those default options and just go with finish. Hit apply, and it draws that in there, and it puts in labels on those things. And we may or may not want labels. To keep this simple, I'm going to go back and turn these off. So I'll select the grid, hit properties, and then there's a tab for labels, and you can turn the labels off if you'd like. That way now we have a nice grid on here that has 20 by 20 foot cells. Makes it really easy if you're trying to draw in additional features. Let's see, some other things we might want to put in. We want to put in a scale bar so that people know what scale this is at. So under Insert, you can go to Scale Bar. There's all sorts of different options for scale bars. I generally prefer the alternating scale bar, that you can choose whatever one you'd like. Click on one and hit OK. And that places a scale bar in here that you can click and drag to another location. And now it's always a good idea to make the scale bar kind of match the scale on your map. So right now my scale bar is, it looks like each division on it is 30 feet across, but that doesn't really match my grid, which is 20 feet. So I'm going to change that, double click on it. And it gives you all sorts of different options for how you can change that particular thing. So one thing I'm going to do is this when resizing box here, I can change that so that I can adjust the width, and then it gives me a division value at the top here if you change it to adjust width. And I want to make my division value 20. And then you can say, how many divisions do you want? I want 5. That'll make 100 feet. That's nice. How many subdivisions do you want? 4 is pretty good. That means that each little subdivision is going to be 5 feet across, so that's nice. So I'll hit apply, hit OK, and now we've got a scale bar that matches our grid and our scale. Additionally, you might want to do insert scale text, and this will actually tell people what the scale is. And you get lots of different choices, and I'm going to do mine in inches equals feet because that makes the most sense. So I'll click on that, click OK, and it adds some text that says 1 inch equals 40 feet for us. Again, you can always go in and change the font and the way that these things look. Another thing we might want to do is, although ArcGIS defaults to having north being up, some gardens may choose to rotate their maps to either A, make them fit better on the page, or B, make them oriented to what they might be used to. So it's always good to put a north arrow on the page, and it generally doesn't need to be very big, but people do need to know which way north is. So I do insert north arrow, and it gives you all sorts of different built-in choices for different styles of north arrow, and you can choose whatever one works best for you. You can get crazy, you can get simple, whatever you want. I'm going to put in this ugly one here. Today's an ugly one. And you can resize that to make it fit on the page. And then it's always good to have a legend so people know what symbols are on here. If you're doing a map book, you might have a separate page that has all that kind of legend information on it that kind of goes at the front of the back so people can use it as for reference. But since we're just doing a single page today, we'll throw a legend in here and we'll put it on some of this blank space that's on the aerial photograph. So if you do insert legend, it brings up this wizard that kind of guides you through the step of choosing what's going to show up in that legend and how it's going to show up. So not everything generally needs to be symbolized. We certainly don't need a legend for the photography. I think that one's pretty easy to figure out. So you can click on the left, it shows you the layers that you have on the map, and on the right, it shows you the things that are the layers that are going to be in your legend. So I'm going to get rid of aerial photography. I'll click on it and then hit the left button here down at the bottom, the left arrow, and that takes it off the list. Area of interest, that doesn't even show up in this picture, so we'll also get rid of that. You could have one for district showing you that that's the thick line. Section is this thinner line. That's good. Our pavement segment feature class, you may or may want that in there. There's lots of stuff in that. I'm going to get rid of that one. You can keep it in there if you'd like. But mass planning and plant center, those are always a couple good ones to keep in there. And then I will hit next since I'm happy with what's in there. And the second screen lets you choose a title for your legend if you need one. I generally think that most people know what the legend is and it doesn't need to say legend, so I usually clear that out. Then you can hit next. It lets you choose a border for it. Since we're going to be putting this on top of the photo, it might be good to put a border on it. So I'll select a 2-point border. And you can put a background on it. I'm just going to make it white. And that's good. I'll hit next. And then it lets you choose the size of the symbols and things like that in there if you're so inclined. I'm going to skip that and hit next. And then it lets you really fine-tune it and choose the spacing between items and things like that. The defaults are usually pretty good, so you can hit finish. And then it throws a legend up on the screen for us, which we can then position in some blank space on our map and go from there. And there's tons of fine-tuning you can do on this. You can, if you double-click on it now, it brings up a whole other set of properties that you didn't see as we were creating it. And you can really fine-tune it. And if you need to tune it even more, you can what's called convert it to graphics, which lets you move each item around individually. So you can do all kinds of stuff with these. And one cool thing about the legend is that as you change things over here in our table of contents, it will update the legend. So right now it's got this thing that shows what all other values of plant centers are, but we have them all categorized, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to double click on Plant Center and unclick this All Other Values box to make it go away. And now the legend updates and it reflects that change. Any questions on that? One other thing that's usually pretty handy to have, especially in the case of collection maps, is a date that the map was created or altered last. There's a cool new thing in ArcMap that lets you enter dynamic text, so it will automatically update when you print that map. So it'll automatically update based on today's date. So as you go to Insert, Dynamic Text, you can do Current Date, and it will generate some text that you can throw in at the bottom of your screen that has today's date, and the next time you open this and print it, it will say the date for that day. And That's a really easy way to let people know when your maps were created. And that's basically it for making a single page map. Does anybody have any questions about that? If you're interested in making multiple page map books, there are a couple different options available for doing that. One is called, what is it called? Dynamic, what is it? Data-driven pages, thank you. One is called data-driven pages, and that's built into ArcMap. And that is a fairly simple interface for being able to make multi-page map books. If you are looking for something more complicated with more options, more ability to customize it, there's a program called MapLogic. It's the name of the company, MapLogic Layout Manager. That is it's an extension to ArcGIS that will allow you to really tweak out how those map books are created. We use that at the UC Davis Arboretum, and it's fairly powerful software. Any other questions on this? Okay, so now we're all done with our map, and we want to export this and share it. What you can do is go to the File menu, go to Export, and then we want to select a location for it. So we'll go to Computer, we'll go to our T drive, and the default file name is fine. You can name this maybe based on what section this is. So this is the South Area KCE section map. And you can choose to export this as a number of different image formats, but generally PDF is the way you want to go for being able to share the map. And then it gives you lots of different options for formatting this at the bottom here. Resolution, if you want a really high quality, high resolution map, 300 is generally pretty good for ultimate print quality. If you're going to be emailing it to people, you can sacrifice a little quality, and 150 is a good resolution to go with. Under format, you can change if it's going to be shown on screen. RGB is a good color space. If you want to print it, CMYK matches printers, you can do that. But I usually find you get the best looking results with RGB. And then under Advanced tab, there's a couple cool little tricks that you can do with ArcGIS now, where when you export the PDF, it will give you the option to turn layers on and off inside the PDF map. So that's pretty cool. So that way you can you're almost giving someone a version or kind of a light ArcGIS ability to be able to hide and show information. And it also will have coordinates in there. So there's tools in PDFs if you have this export map georeference information on. People can use their pointer in Acrobat to be able to see the coordinates of plants. So that can be handy if people need to go out with like a GPS unit or something like that. So those are cool little options. So we'll leave those on the way they are, and we'll hit Save. And it will export that map for us. And then if we want to take a look at that, let's open up Windows Explorer here from the start or the taskbar. Go to the T drive, and we should see a PDF icon for the South Air KCE section map. And that exported at 150 DPI. That's pretty small. It's only 500K, so that's really nice for being able to post to the web or sharing with others. So we double-click that. It'll open up in Acrobat, and we can see our map on here. On the left-hand side of the Acrobat window, there is a couple tilted squares here that are for layers. If you open that up, you can expand the layers here, and now look at, you see pretty much the same kind of information that we saw inside of ArcMap, and now I can turn things off. So I can turn the grid off, I can turn the plant centers off, I can turn the mass plantings off. So it's kind of neat for people to be able to use these maps. And I think the coordinates thing is one of the advanced tools. It's probably under Analysis. Yeah, under the Tools menu, Analysis, Geospatial Location. Now as I move my cursor around, it's got latitude and longitude coordinates, so that's kind of handy. Any questions on that? Alright, so you can go ahead and close Acrobat, close the Windows Explorer, close ArcMap, and save your changes. And we will wrap things up.